I never thought that I would make it into Vogue, but on Monday I did. Eyebrows were raised when the first erotic novel in the English-language, Fanny Hill, was dropped from a 18th century literature course for fear of offending students, the magazine's website proclaimed. In a chain of news as gossip, recognizable both from our internet age and the 18th century coffee houses beloved of Fanny Hill's readers, a comment I had made on the radio had been twisted into headlines. Erotic novel first banned 270 years ago for describing a young girl's sexual exploits is censored again, in case it upsets students, crowed the Mail on Sunday, as did a follow-up in the Times. This was all prompted by a remark I made on the Radio 4 series The Invention of Free Speech. In it, I said in the 1980s I both protested against the opening of a sex shop in Cambridge and taught Fanny Hill. Nowadays I would be worried about causing offence to my students. IDIDNT, as I was accused in the papers, remove Fanny Hill from the university course reading list for the age of oppositions, 16,601,780 following a consultation with students, as the Times reported. It was never on the course, therefore it could not have been withdrawn or banned, as the Evening Standard put it. On the course I co-teach at Royal Holloway, University of London, we examine numerous texts that explore the representation of sexuality in complex ways, including erotic poems by Rochester and Aphra Behn. As I said on that Radio 4 program, pornography is not the only way to talk about sex. Yet this isn't just a story about misrepresentation in the press. There are wider issues at stake, about what is being taught and talked about in universities. When Fanny Hill was published in 1748, it broke new ground in discussing sexuality. When I first taught this text in the 1980s, it seemed important to make sure that the issues raised by Fanny Hill, including desire, pornography and power, were discussed in an academic environment. That academic environment has changed. The student body is larger, more diverse, less privileged and more uncertain about the future, and the ubiquity of pornography has changed the terms of the debate. In the media coverage, today's university students have been represented as too sensitive, snowflakes in the face of difficult subjects, to the point of actively resisting free speech. The Times article implicitly linked my self-censorship to recent cases of students no-platforming public speakers they deemed offensive. I admit I have been frustrated by students requesting trigger warnings, usually about texts which include representations of violence against women. These requests imply that the texts or the teachers of them endorse the violence they represent and that students might be harmed by them. They can, however, provide an opportunity to analyze and respond sensitively to difficult issues. Jill Filipovich has written interestingly on the self-defeating nature of trigger warnings, suggesting they cut down discussion and work as academic virtue signaling. But it would be wrong to represent all current students as refusing to listen to views they don't want to hear. Rather, we could think about this in terms of an evolution in free speech. Students are raising questions about who has the right to speak, the right to determine the agenda, and calling for a diversity of writers to be taught. The problem with teaching Fanny Hill is not to deal with sex, but power. When senior academics make a work of pornography a set text, they should attend to the power relations implicit in the pedagogic relationship and be aware that students can feel coerced. Universities encourage students to question what they learn and to participate actively in their education. Discussions about the curriculum are a normal part of that process. What seems important is a commitment on all sides to the free exchange of ideas in a critical debate. A climate of suspicion may be growing on our campuses, but it is fostered in sensational headlines about banning books.